Let me introduce you to Betty Shaw. She is the executive director of the Gulfport Historical Museum. And that's where we've been invited to put this exhibit up about the Gulfport Messiah Horse. She's going to tell you just a little bit about the museum, and then we'll go from there.
Welcome to the Gulfport Museum of History. We're pleased to have a sign for us here for the display. The Gulfport Museum of History is located in the 1904 train station. And we're here to celebrate the history of Gulfport and to talk about the wonderful things that have gone on here and the wonderful history we have on the coast. It's so good to have a sign for us history here because it fits right into our place in the community and their place in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to have been able to exhibit and to be part of your organization. Thank you. In the beginning, that would be Airman First Class Glenn Drager. He had a dream and was sent here to Keesler. His dream was to create an all-male force of military, and nobody wanted to hear about it. Well, Liz was, if nothing, persistent. He eventually talked his way into them letting him go and start this in order to get rid of him, because he was in their offices every day. And the dream and vision of Glenn Draper was to establish Keesler Male Horse, which we did, but it was also to present the Messiah to this community. And nobody wanted to do it because they didn't know what it was. And they said nobody will come to it. He happened to be at a dinner, and someone introduced him to the base commander's wife. And she said, I like that idea. So she walked right over, told her husband, let's make this happen. And they performed at the theater on Keesler. That first performance, it was so big, they had to do it 3 nights in a row. There was such a huge attendance. He incorporated wives and female military members and the women from the Gulfport Teachers College in order to bring the women's voices in. And he taught his fellow soldiers who would play instruments into being the orchestra. That's how it began in 1952. And there has never been a year that it has not been performed here on the coast by this group since then. So moving from the beginning.
My name is Roseanne Johnson Pacho. I'm a Messiah Horse member and soloist, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the most wonderful, talented, energetic, and very caring Christian man who began and directed the Messiah Horse and Orchestra's journey 70 years ago, Mr. Glenn Draper. I had the pleasure and the privilege of singing as a horse member and soloist with Glenn Draper in his later years. I got to know him and his beautiful wife, Miguel, who was also a wonderful soprano soloist. As a director, he had a special way of inspiring and encouraging his singers and his instrumentalists. His dynamic personality, his love of God and music spilled over into the chorus and orchestra under his direction. He caused us to want to do our very best that we could possibly do, not only just for the accuracy of the music itself, but to perform with all of our hearts and soul. His facial expressions and his very sweet smile when he was directing brought joy to us all. His accomplishments are way too many to tell you in this very short time, but I'll briefly inform you about his remarkable career as a university professor and a world-famous music director who touched the lives of singers and audiences across the globe. His passion and commitment to music and to his Christian faith led him to fulfill his goals and dreams. His singers have performed for 5 United States presidents and on many radio and TV shows, including the Ed Sullivan Show, which was, in his day, the very most famous show on TV. Glenn had 2 main goals and dreams. His first dream was directing an all-male military chorus. His dream came true, even though he met quite a few obstacles in its formation. It finally happened in 1952 here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast at Keesler Air Force Base. He was a young airman at that time who had recently graduated from college and joined the military. The Keesler Air Force Base male chorus started doing radio and TV performances in New Orleans and eventually doing weekly shows on NBC's national network. Glenn's next big dream was to direct a chorus performing George Frederick Handel's Messiah. His dream and a lot of hard work, including adding female singers from along the coast and Gulfport College to form a mixed chorus, and also an orchestra to be able to perform among the titles finally achieved. The performance was shown nationally on the NBC network. Eventually, the military could no longer fund the Messiah Chorus and Orchestra, so it was moved off base into the coastal community. It was so exciting when Glenn came back, he would return to Mississippi and direct the Hallelujah Chorus. He returned on our 50th and 60th anniversary, and also on our 61st through 64th anniversary. This is just a very brief synopsis of such a great man's life. There would be no Messiah Chorus, no Gulf Coast Messiah Chorus, if it were not for Glenn Draper. And the chorus has continued to this day for 70 consecutive years. Thank you.
Goes to New York. Okay. Hey, I'm from George, Connecticut. Nickname of Mac, that's when most of the folks know me around here. An old hand, I'm pretty well retired now from Messiah, but I did my stint with them almost 50 years with them. We had 42 years at Keesler, starting in 52, and going to 94, and Ed and I have 20 years, over 20 years sitting at Keesler before we went off on our own. And it was a great experience, but it was a real challenge when we went off on our own. We had kind of a surprise 1994 spring concert, which we never had before. We had a retired colonel from the Air Force who had sung with us for years. I shouldn't say sung with us, but he sang with the chorus going back to the days of Glenn Draper. And he was kind of in and out on duty, and at this time he was stationed locally. And he had his good base St. Louis, and he advised us that we were going to have a spring concert and that we would no longer be performing at Keesler Air Force Base. And that came as a surprise, as Ed and I had, been very devoted to the chorus. And Harry said we're going to have our first venue is going to be at a church over in Biloxi, off Sperry Bass Road intersection. So that's fine. And we did perform over there. And the retired colonel had a lot of connections at Keesler, so he was able to arrange to get the scores worked on. The score of Messiah books that we had at that time weren't all that expensive, but certainly it was a relief to us to be able to have those scores to perform. And that was our first performance. And the retired colonel, just one more word about him. One of the things about him, he was the one that introduced us to Glenn Draper. We had never met Glenn. We heard a lot about him. And of course, you just heard those in and talk a lot about his history, but we first met him at our 50th performance. That was first time we met him, and he directed the Hollywood Chorus. Of course, he had come back a couple of times since then. And I guess our second performance that we had that fall was at Pastor's Inn, and the church we had, the venue there was right on the main drag, and it was Christmas in the past. So we competed with all the bands going by and the people, and they popped in and out to hear us and what have you. So it was a lot of fun for us. And we've been in venues all over the coast. Ted, talk about some of those venues. What was your favorite one?
My favorite one actually was Keesler. So we performed that.
Okay.
But we performed at more than 50 venues in the 3 coastal counties and all the cities across the coast. And although we performed at those 50 places, the numbers of those venues have been doubled because of places like Keesler that was every year, and the Cathedral in Biloxi was every year, and the city, what we're trying to think of, whatever.
Yeah, we all had favorites, and we had been all over the coast. One of my favorites was that Pastor's Inn Church. We had our regular director was ill, and she had a substitute that worked with her at the community college, and he directed us, and we did a sensational job, even though that sun was shining through the windows so bright that you could hardly see the storm. This was great, and I had 2 friends there. One of them was from New Orleans, and one was from New Orleans that we knew, and she came up to us afterwards and she said, "You were great. Can you all come over to New Orleans and sing at our church?" She actually wanted, but we never got a bid. I said, "Send us a bid. We'll see if we can do that." That was a lot of fun. But getting back to, we had to go off on our own after 1994, after so long in Keesler. And even though Harry, a retired colonel, and we had a couple of folks, and we had Father Juan from over in Pastor's and Bruce Dodds. And you and I had just retired from Ingalls, and you had were in business for yourself, so we had time, and we said we'd help you out. Well, lo and behold, within a few years, it was you and I that set the whole thing up. And you remember we'd meet on my back porch, you'd have a cup of tea, I'd have a cup of coffee, and we'd say, "Okay, what are we gonna do this year?" And so we'd go from there, and we alternated, going back and forth. You do it this year, I'll do it this year, back and forth. And the big thing, of course, always was fundraising. And I know that you and I were much involved with fundraising. We had a lot of grants. What were some of those? Recall the grants you had?
Mississippi Arts Commission.
Mississippi Arts Commission
And the Baker McCarty
and
Foundation.
Baker McCarthy, yeah.
And our own funding,
Yeah,
the Gulfport and those things.
yeah, we had to go out and knock on doors. I remember going to Brian McKee's funeral home every year, and he was always very generous. He sponsored a team, but I'd have to walk through and go through all the people. When I'd get to Jeff O'Keefe, and sit down, and we'd talk. Finally, come down to the meat of it. Jeff, we put a team together this year, but that was good. And one year we had 144 golfers. Remember that? And we had 104. We had 2 4-person teams. I'm going to say men because the women playing too. On each hole, 18 holes with 18 on each hole. 144 golfers, and we turned some down. It was great. And remember, we had Irene came by in a little Scotch hat costume, and she would sell mulligans for $5, 3 for 10, or something like that. Man, that was a real money maker for us. We had really a good thing going for us, and it's still 70 years, 1952 to 2022, 70 years.
Back I split a lot of responsibilities. He would be the chairman of the board and I would be the vice chair. And so it was split and take a year off and keep going. And so we put it all together. And right now, I'm the past chair of the board. I was the board chair for 25 years.
Yes, we were.
And I'm also served as editor of the writer for the Republican each year. And those things.
And you did a great job on that too. Yeah, we had to go out and add, and you would get the printer right down to the last minute. And you'd come back to me and say, Matt, who do we have as sponsors? I need to get a list of our sponsors. Always the last minute. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. So,
I've sung in the group for more than 4 years.
yeah,
I sung it for almost 50, right?
49. I had a little couple of years off from there. But 49.
More than it all.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Randy Simmons. I've been a member of the board for 8 years now on the Lincoln Bay section. For the last 4 years, I've been the chairman of the logistics committee. I know you just heard from Ed Mack about some of the fundraising efforts that we have to go through every year. Let me tell you what we use some of that money for. The logistics committee is responsible for setting up the physical venue. We get a church or the community college stage or someplace to open up a venue for us. We come in advance, we'll survey it, see what we need to prepare the setting for the course to perform. We have invested in a set of risers, very nice risers that are not just the little ones that of course might stand on just to stand. We have big risers, we have chairs that during soloist performances, of course, can sit. It's not a short performance, so we try to spread this out. Many of us are seniors and we appreciate the opportunity to sit down. We also own a utility trailer that we store all of those risers in. That trailer requires a license plate. That trailer requires insurance. That trailer had to get a new set of tires last year. There is maintenance involved in that. So there's a lot of behind the scenes expenditures that the course has to go through year in and year out in order to sustain this operation. It's a great thing. Sometimes we have to go in and set up our full set. Traditionally, our opening performance during Christmas season is at the BVM Cathedral in Biloxi. That requires our whole setup. And besides bringing in the stuff, we bring in some men to help with the labor. This is not an easy job. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to set up the full set at the Cathedral. So, we have to hire labor to help us with that. Again, most of the members of the Society, of course, are senior citizens. And like Ed Mack we're talking about, we just don't do some of that hard work anymore. So again, there's another expense involved with labor. Sometimes we'll get to a church that's got a really perfect parlour. We don't have to do anything as far as setting up. But sometimes it's go in and figure it out. I keep a notebook of all the places that we've been and have designs and drawings of the setup and how we did it before. So if we ever return to that same venue, whether it's me or my successor in the role of the committee chair, we'll pass that information in order to not have to reinvent the wheel. So it's a very labor-intensive logistical operation to support the site, of course, from the background. So we appreciate the support that we get from all avenues of revenue, whether it's the Mississippi Arts Commission or Bacon Party or the support, the fundraising events that we have. We appreciate everybody's ongoing support, and we look forward to more decades of providing the Kansas Messiah to the Mississippi Gulf Coast community. Thank you.
I'm Patty Tilley. I'm a longtime member of the Gulf Coast Messiah Chorus and historian for the board of directors. Our newly evolved Gulf Coast Messiah Chorus was ready to move forward, and we called as our musical director, Mrs. Hilda Barnes. Hilda was well known and well loved and respected on the Gulf Coast. She held a master's degree in music and had experience in both academic and church music on the coast. Hilda got us going as a choir and an orchestra and brought attention and new talent to the choir. She continued as our director until her death in 2006. We're grateful to Hilda for all she did for the choir in the early days. After Hilda, we were directed by Mr. Alan Henson. Alan had a master's degree and was active on the coast in church choirs and also directed the Mississippi Coast Chorale. Dr. Paul McGahey became our musical director after Alan, and he was with us for 16 years. Paul held a doctorate degree in musical arts from the Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music and was very experienced in church and choir choral music. He also was the minister of music at the First United Methodist Church in Pascagoula. He did a lot of hard work behind the scenes, scouting out venues and moving and setting up equipment, networking with musicians across South Mississippi. He introduced us to Alejandro Encinas and the Southern Strings. They became the orchestra for the choir, and our continued partnership with them, with these talented musicians, has greatly enhanced our performances for many years. Dr. Paul encouraged soloists and young vocal artists to lend their talents to our performances and to seek out opportunities to be involved in other performing groups on the coast. And we're really grateful for our long association with Dr. Paul. And we were happy to honor him with the title of Director Emeritus when he retired in 2022. Currently, we're blessed to have Joy Mertens as our musical director. Joy sung with the choir for years, and she became our director in our 70th anniversary year. She has over 40 years of experience directing choirs, ensembles, and orchestras. Her early training was as an organist, and she holds a Master of Music Performance degree in Sacred Music from Loyola. She's studied choral directing extensively, and she's directed choral groups performing around the world. We look forward to many years of performing under her directorship. For the past 20 years, our choir has been blessed by the talents and friendship of our wonderful accompanist, Guy Bowering. Guy joined us in 2003, and since then, his remarkable talent has enhanced our rehearsals and our performances. This choir has seen many changes and many struggles through the years. Guy has been a faithful mainstay through the challenges presented by the devastation of Hurricane Katrina and the COVID pandemic. As many choir members struggle through these difficulties, Guy has been a never-failing source of encouragement, friendship, and comfort. We are so grateful for what he brings to this choir. His immense talent enhances our performances. His love for the music encourages us to continue, and his concern and care for the individuals that make up our choir have helped us to stay together and to stay focused. The Gulf Coast Messiah Chorus has been blessed with wonderful leadership through the years. The talented singers who make up this choir are people from varied backgrounds. Some of them have been with the group for many years, and we welcome new singers every season. There are venues to organize, equipment to maintain and transport, soloists to audition, guest performers to organize, programs to print, funds to raise. So many moving parts that have to be seen to in order to make our performances happen. Our talented and hardworking directors and accompanists have been vital to our ability to offer music to the people of the Gulf Coast for 70 years. Thank you.
Great.
In the early days of this choir as a nonprofit, we were greatly assisted by many people in the community. One of those people is Dr. Arthur Matthews. He assisted us by gathering a group of talented instrumental musicians from around the coast. He got them together, he prepared them musically, and he even funded that effort in order to have orchestral accompaniment for the choir. We're very grateful to Dr. Arthur Matthews.
Good afternoon. My name is Donnie Walker.
And I have been singing the chorus for a number of years. I can't recount them right now. I'm also a member of the board of directors. I don't think it's been mentioned yet, but the Gulf Coast Messiah Force is a nonprofit organization. So when it left Keesler somewhere around 94 or 95, it was awarded the 501(c) status for nonprofits. The things that have been already shared today emphasize the importance of our connection to the communities that we serve. And we go all across the coast from border to border. We have many opportunities to connect to our community. And we're trying to enhance that by providing sing-ins where we invite communities to come and just sing with us as we go through the Messiah chorus. And that's always turned out to be an opportunity to recruit members into our chorus. We also like to reach out, and we have some Christmas carols during Christmas season at the Bow Lodge. We've done it at the military retirement home. I think there was a session in Bow Water one time that we were doing a Christmas production there. So we just try to put ourselves out there into the community as much as possible. I'm going to try to walk around and show you different aspects of our community involvement. You've already heard about our golf tournament, and we have wonderful supporters that help us there. The sheriff is one of the major ones that they provide the food for the golfers at our golf tournament, and everyone truly enjoys that. So they are a wonderful sponsor. We also have opportunities to raise funds, and you've heard about the need for funds. I'll go ahead and tell you, we have to pay and want to pay our companies and our directors, so there's a need for funding for that. We also have to pay the orchestra that so there are expenses associated with putting on our performances, and we appreciate all the sponsors that we can have. We do the fundraising all year long, it never stops. One of the big things that we'll do this summer is a gala and a silent auction, and this will pull in the community again, and we'll have performances by our own, and then maybe some members of the community to sing different genres of music through the different decades. One of our biggest supporters, I'm just going to hold this up if you don't mind, is the Mississippi Arts Commission. Without this grant, I don't think that we would be able to really operate. And every year it is a rigorous process of applying. We've been very fortunate for a number of years to receive funding through the Mississippi Arts Commission. And let's just kind of go around this way and get my dog breath here. Okay. We use media big time, and that includes printed media, the internet, and then trying to get just contacting personally churches, schools, any source where we believe that we can invite people to come and be a part of us or to support us. Let me consult my notes here. I don't want to see it repeat. Every year we have a local competition for our young artist, and Donna Snell is going to tell you more about that. But that is a wonderful outreach into the community to bring in younger people who will hopefully stay with us, because as George said, many of us are a little over 50, and we need younger singers and some participation. Let me try one more circular These pictures here represent opportunities for fellowship with people who invite us into their churches or their venues to participate and to present our program. And that is probably one of the most rewarding times, that after performances, we can mingle and have fellowship with the people who have attended the performances, and we really look forward to that. I hope you understand by doing the round with me that it really takes a whole community for us to have a successful chorus, and we appreciate everyone who supports us. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Donna Snell, and I'm so glad to be able to be here today to share with you some information about our Young Artists Vocal Competition. My husband Pete and I have been members of the Gulf Coast Messiah Chorus. This is our 19th season of singing through. Early on, I noticed that there were a number of families who came to sing in the Messiah Chorus. And I thought that was wonderful to have young people, even children as young as 9 years old, would come and sing with their parents. And I just thought that would be a great thing if we could get more. So I brought it up at a board meeting time, and Dr. Paul McGahey, who was our director at the time, said, "Oh, I know what we can do about that. We can have a competition." And Ed Haig said, "Donna, would you like to be in charge of that since you brought it up?" And of course, I said yes, because I was really interested. And we had a small committee that was formed, and we figured out a way to send out information to all of the high school, junior college, and college choral directors, local voice teachers, to churches, and everybody else that we could think about. We tried to pass out information. One of the things that we developed was this poster that was eye-catching because it's got Handel's picture on it. And it describes very briefly what all is required for students to apply and register to be in the program. They have to fill out a registration form, send in a modest fee. They have to get 2 recommendations, one from a music teacher and one from somebody else in the community that will vouch for them, and write an essay about what they think their goals are, objectives, what their background is in music, and share that with our committee. Then on the appointed day, they arrive at a certain time. We usually have this at the Gulf Coast, at the Mississippi Community College down in Gulfport. And they arrive and have a time for a warm-up, for rehearsal with Guy Bowering, our accompanist. They have an interview with the judging panel, and then they perform a solo, which they have prepared from the first part of Handel's Messiah. The judges are voice teachers or professors that we have invited to come, and they fill out some critiques on each child and give them pointers on how they might improve some of their singing, and also point out the things that we feel that they've done very well. After everyone's had a chance to perform their solo, the judges get together and decide about scholarships. And each student is given a scholarship to encourage them with their music. The scholarships can be used for educational purposes, tuition at college, or maybe for some kind of musical endeavor that they want to have. Voice lessons or music trip with their choir at school or something like that. And then the director of the Messiah Chorus will offer an invitation to some of the singers to perform their solo at one of our Christmas concerts. This has been a truly remarkable experience, I think, for our chorus, because we not only get the opportunity to support young singers give them an opportunity to get to sing with a big chorus accompanied by instrumentalists on a stage when they're 15, 16, 17, up through 25. We have, our cutoff is 15 to 25 years of age. Some of these students apply several years in a row, so they're able to be awarded more than one scholarship and have the experience of singing a different solo or with the chorus. And it gives our chorus just such a nice lift to have these young, beautiful voices with us and know that we are encouraging them in their musical journey. So that is the purpose of the Young Artists Vocal Competition. And I would encourage any young artists who love to sing, who live down here on Mississippi Gulf Coast, because that's who it's for, to come and check us out. You can see us on the website, messiahchorus.org, and find out the information every year in October about the Young Artists Vocal Competition.
How much have we given in scholarship?
We have given over $30,000 in scholarships over the past 11 years. All of the donations for the scholarships come from individuals or sometimes from grants and from fundraisers and very generous people. We have our top scholarship is $1,000, and it goes to the person that the judging committee deems the most outstanding singer. And that scholarship is named in honor of Glenn Draper. That's the Glenn Draper Memorial Scholarship. And we love giving that every year.